Hello everyone, my name is Avery Broderson. Hopefully you came here to check more knowledge on my project that I presented to you. This will be an extension of Project 1, and hopefully I can teach you more about the idea of running effects. So for Project 1, I began asking myself the main research question of how does running affect your health? Now this topic is so broad that it was very difficult at times. My biggest challenge was specifically defining what is health or what is healthy. So on my first 2 days, I spent time looking over this idea. I was quick to find lots of answers, but no specific way to define it. I approached this assignment originally with a research-based, trying to look for statistics and knowledge, but I would later find that I really enjoyed the humanistic side in talking to people or reading online. So I continued to do this for my next 4 logs total. 4 out of my 6 logs were based upon talking with people or reading online information. The humanistic side was very important for me on this project. For some reason, it really stood out to me. Originally, I thought I loved the research aspects, but I was quick to find I did not. So I really honed in on this first project, and I made a YouTube video very similar to what I'm doing at the moment. I ended up running to test numbers of heart rate, VO2 max, and feelings, but I was still quick to find that most of the time I was looking more at mental aspects for Project 1. So with the knowledge that I gained from Project 1, this new insight taught me that for Project 2, I really wanted to stay on this humanistic side. Now here's the difference with Project 2. This was an academic reasoning project. We needed to go to the Chris Library and pick up multiple books that we felt were necessary for this project. I ended up picking out 3 books that were specific and strict on the idea that follow the words exercise, psychology, or physiology. At this point, I was unsure where I wanted to go with Project 2. I went to the library and I had picked up 3 books. I was very strict on the idea of where I wanted to go with them at the time. I wanted books that had titled ideas of exercise and psychology, or even factors like physiology. It was very important to me that I'd look through the table of contents to find all sorts of details that I could use for this next project. With this project focusing on more academic research based, it was very important to me, and especially the project, that it had lots of facts and reasoning behind what the books included for information. After reading the table of contents that these books had offered, I was quick to realize that these were super interesting books with a ton of information that was statistical, explained the data, and had tons of information that was extremely useful for this project. I would then pull multiple quotes, I think up to about 10, that I would use on my next project. With this being academic research based, it was crucial that I found quotes that had meaningful answers and that they were found from real studies. Upon looking for this idea of more meaningful research, I figured to myself, why don't I just conduct my own? So that's exactly what I did. Since my topic was based upon a research-based, finding evidence and humanistic approach, I figured, why don't I just go to the gym and ask people about what they know about running? So that's exactly what I did. At the gym, I would end up asking people if they could scan this QR code and they could fill out a little survey for me. It was about 4 questions and had 1 written response. I would ask questions like, how often do you run? How does running make you feel after? What motivates you to run? What are your stress levels like? Luckily, I was actually able to get 12 people to answer this quick little survey. I found that the question of what is your primary reason for running? Most people said to improve physical health. I had 83% of users say this. This factors for about 10% or 10 people. The next 2 main reasons were to reduce stress and for social reasons like friends and clubs. Another question I had asked is, how do you typically feel mentally after running? The 2 most important categories here that were answered were most people, 75%, felt that they were less stressed and they were happier in an improved mood. Another question I had asked participants was, how would you rate your stress levels on days you run compared to days you do not run? Almost 91.7% said that they definitely had lower stress on running days. Only 3 participants, 25%, had said that they felt about the same. Upon asking people for a free response question where they could write whatever they would like, I had some meaningful answers that some people had gave me. My question to them was, what motivates you to run, and how does that connect to your mental health and well-being? One user had said, I feel a lot more productive when I run. I usually wake up pretty early before class to make sure I have time to include it into my day. I feel a lot less overwhelmed. Another user had said, running helps me clear my mind after a long day. I usually feel a lot less anxious and in more control of my thoughts. I run a lot more during exam weeks. All this information is super meaningful to me. Honestly, I really appreciate these people for taking the time out of their day and answering with good responses. I think what was super important about this was it only correlated more with Project 1 and what I had found in Project 2 was that this idea of running is only beneficial for you. It helps boost happiness, less stress, and makes you just overall such a happier person. Running is a drug that fuels your brain. I honestly thought I'd come into more struggles with this assignment with asking people, as usually when you go up to people, especially in the morning, it becomes a little challenging as people don't really care to talk to you. Here is an example of someone I talked to. Taking a photo of them was probably not the greatest idea, but they were completely okay with it. I probably should have asked before. One of the quotes I found in the reading was, "Health is defined as a state of complete physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being, not just the absence of disease." I think this really stood out to me a lot because not only did it define it in its own ways, almost all of the ideas here that defined health were some form of mental. Even if we look at the idea of a physical well-being, you can honestly argue that it's all due to mental. Another quote that really stood out to me was, "Physical fitness can be subjectively measured by determining how much energy someone has to enjoy life." What I like about this quote is that running is not just numbers, and it's not about distance and timing. I think it's important to realize that health is really about how people feel and not all about numbers. If someone were to feel better about running and it makes them have a good day, less stress, that's really more healthy. My final quote that I'd like to present to you guys is, "Exercise may reduce stresses for up to 3 hours after activity." Now this really stood out to me for some reason. This idea that you could be happy 3 hours after running felt very important to me. This really correlated with my survey, as a lot of people said that they felt happier throughout the day even after running. It was awesome to see that my correlation through the data that I obtained and what a book had said academically was great. So why did I create a YouTube video? What was any point of any of this? I wanted something that was tangible, but I also wanted something that was on paper. A YouTube video is obviously not something that you can display to paper, so that's exactly why I made a handout. On my handout, I directly answer with quotations from what I found from my academic research of how running affects your mental health. Not only did I answer the question here on the paper, but I also wanted to explain to everyone a little background of everything I had done for this research assignment. I've honestly spent the last month and a half or 2 months defining what is healthy or what is health and how does running affect your health. On this project, I focused on how running affects your mental health, and I honestly hope that everything that you guys learned today, you can apply to your own life. So honestly, the next time that you feel stressed out or that everything's going wrong in your life, just go for a run. That's what my buddy always recommends to me. Sometimes it's difficult and you like to say no, but the best thing you can do is just go for a run.